What's up, witches? It's me again. And I really, just kind of spur of the moment, decided that I wanted to make a second part to my shaky cam, because camera's on the patio table. And obligatory take cat hair off my lipstick time. Okay. I really wanted to film a follow-up, I guess, to my video that I did recently on the Aesir and the Vanir, because in that video I kind of touched more on like the historical basis and research behind the two groups, like what we know of them from the Eddas and so on and so forth. What I didn't really get into as much, and what I've kind of been discussing a lot with other pagans recently, which led me to want to make a video on it, is my own personal practices as someone who is both new to practicing Norse paganism and who does work with / offer to both Aesir and Vanir gods. I work with Odin and Loki, and Frey and Freya primarily. I kind of wanted to go a little bit further into what I personally, based just on my own personal UPG or unverified personal gnosis, my own intuitions, my own experiences and thoughts and feelings that I have had with the two different sides of the Norse pagan coin, if you will, and what I have experienced and taken away as some of the differences between the two. Yeah, how I work with both groups. I found Freya first and foremost, and she is my patroness. And I say patroness because I was not really looking for like a mother figure per se, which is why the term matron kind of just rubbed me the wrong way. But that's just me. So I prefer to refer to her as my patroness. After that, I decided that maybe I wanted to set up a space to Odin as well and incorporate him into my practice as someone who likes knowledge and learning. And Loki came along for the ride, as we know. And just recently, I had a few kind of brief, what I would call experiences or feelings of Freyr energies. I felt like it was appropriate, with them being twins, to have a little space for him as well. But I would say, aside from just kind of like keeping up on the offerings every now and then with him, I haven't had so much interaction with him as I have with Freya. Overall, I definitely just found myself way more interested in the Vanir pantheon because after deciding to work with Freya and learning more about them, their traits just kind of really resonated with my own. I definitely see the Vanir as being more over the realms of nature, and because they're primarily seen as like gods of like love and fertility. And I think that also ties into Freyr being worshipped as a god of agriculture. They're also tied to like wealth and prosperity and happiness. So the rune that you'll often see associated with them is Fehu, which is rune letter for F in the Futharic alphabet, and it translates to like wealth or cattle. So I think that also kind of gives them an association with like not just cattle as it pertains to like livestock, but what you'll see is that, back in those times, how many cattle you had was kind of seen as a sign of your wealth and prosperity. Brief rune lesson for you there, but anyway, long story short, I definitely just found more aspects of the Vanir gods that resonated with me personally as someone who likes being outside, likes spending time with plants and animals, and gets a lot of just peace, happiness, and fulfillment from being outdoors in nature. I need to be surrounded with that good tree energy, you know? What I've kind of found is that the Vanir are a little bit more accessible in terms of just being like willing to make themselves known to us, work with humanity to support us, give us, you know, things that we might need or assist us when we ask for help. Like the minute I called on her, Freya was definitely just like right there and, you know, assisted me with what I needed, which started the basis of our whole relationship. And just overall, I've really found that they just have a very like casual, laid back, go with the flow attitude, you know, what I would call Vanir vibes. I feel like conversing with her is just kind of like chit-chatting with an old friend or like a fun but knowledgeable older sister who's always kind of just there to support you and give you advice. And I feel like this whole time that I've been exploring this path, she's been like right there next to me, kind of holding my hand there whenever I need some support or some like words of affirmation and encouragement. And the same with Freyr. Yeah, he's definitely, you know, when her energy was kind of taking a back step during the winter and the more dormant months, I strangely found him kind of stepping forward when I needed it and supporting me and just feeling his energy in nature. And so I definitely, that's where I feel their presence the most, is just, you know, outdoors and all of this beautiful greenery and plant and animal life that is growing in abundance right now. We're getting into summer, going toward midsummer now, the longest day of the year, where the sun will be the highest, the day will be its longest and hottest and brightest. So we're getting into those like fertility, goddess vibes for sure. Yeah, in terms of the Vanir in modern paganism practice, I feel like I definitely experience their energies in nature and especially places where the water meets the land. With the Vanir specifically, Njord is kind of said to be a sea god who lives near the coast, and so while the god of the actual oceans and seas is more of a Jotun named Aegir, Njord I kind of see as that like safe harbor, that like shelter and protection from the storms and like the ravages. He has his home, Noatun, means ship enclosure. So I think all of the Vanir are just very present in places where the earth meets the water, and so as you go like further inland, you'll experience them in, you know, rivers, ponds, lakes, creeks. Big and small, you know, all waters are connected and go back to their origin eventually, you know, water cycle and all that. They're just kind of there for, providing whatever nourishes and sustains us here on Earth. So the things that I like to offer to Frey and Freya are grain and like grain products, so like beer, bread, especially like breads or baked goods that you've made yourself. And with Freya especially, I like to offer her fruit, particularly berries, because I just like berries. They're some of my favorites, and I like to offer them things that I especially like because I feel like it's more of a meaningful gift that way. Like I picked a handful of raspberries off my raspberry bushes back here last fall. It was like the first that we'd ever gotten the bushes to produce, and it was only a handful. That's all we got, really. And as much as I wanted to just like chow down on them because I love raspberries, I gave them to Freya. So I feel like, yeah, making that sacrifice of something that you might really want to like keep for yourself, or something that you've made yourself and put time and effort in, too are things that are good to give to her. And associating her especially with and Frey with like the sun and like happiness and like sunny aspects, I like to give them citrus fruits, things you grow or make yourself. I think acts of kindness or acts of service to people and animals, especially tending the land. So things like gardening or even like just taking really good care of a house plant. You know, being a love goddess, I'll just throw it out there. Sex and sex magic are always good things to kind of dedicate to them. My go-to is usually incense, candles, songs, poetry. I find poetry is a very difficult form of creative writing for me to get a handle on, but I try for her. And I'm a very shy, introverted person. I sing in the car, like when I'm alone by myself, or if I'm, with the right group of friends. But I found myself, like, if I'm in a good mood or, like, feeling really upbeat, I'll just find myself, like, singing out loud, just walking around the house or going about my day. And whereas normally I'd kind of, like, keep that inside or catch myself or stop or just hum to myself, I'll just belt it out now because I think that's kind of her pushing me to get out of my comfort zone and get past my shyness and put myself out there more, and also just kind of like sing for her. I definitely feel like she especially puts like random song lyrics in my head as like messages for me. And then on the other hand, with the Aesir, specifically Odin and Loki are the two that I work with and offer to primarily. While I have had a few brief encounters with the Allfather, for me personally, now I'm sure for others, because as I said, this is based only on my own experiences so far, and I've only been doing this for like 6 months. But so far I have found Odin to be a bit more aloof. Not cold, not really distant per se, but he's a wanderer. He's a busy guy. He's got a lot of shit to keep his eye on and attend to. So when I'm like at the altar, specifically like giving time and attention to him, he will kind of like pop in and to be like, "Hey, cool, thanks. What do you need? Like, what do you need?" But other than that, I don't really sense his presence just like around and about like Freya or even Loki. Like Loki is an attention whore. He saw that I was over here opening myself up and opening my home up to Freya and Odin, and he was like, "Ooh, me, are you giving out offerings? What about me? I want some." And so I just rolled with it. But Odin, I think, is definitely a little bit more reserved. He kind of just stands back and watches and like maybe meets you halfway. He's off doing his thing. And that's kind of what I expected from the get-go. I'm sure that like people who want or need him for more specific or deeper relationships may get that from him. Like with me, it's kind of just like, yeah, I heard you the first time. I'm here, I exist, but I'm kind of standing back watching to see, he's watching to see like what we do, how we conduct ourselves, what we're going to do to kind of raise ourselves to his level. And if you slip and fall and you're really struggling and you've like exhausted all your own resources, you can ask him for help and he may or may not assist you, but he's not as hands-on as the Vanir are for sure. The Vanir are, I think a little bit more directly involved in our day-to-day, more concerned with our health, wealth, and happiness, whereas Odin is kind of more that distant creator, I feel like. He created mankind, and he's more concerned with like our preservation. My feelings are that the Vanir more created the earth itself and all. Well, not the earth itself, because like Odin and them created the earth from Ymir's body, but all of the things on the earth, all of the things in Midgard that nourish and sustain us are kind of thanks to the Vanir and their ilk. So that's my feeling anyway. So yeah, with Odin, he's a little bit more distant and aloof. The Vanir is kind of, yeah, more laid back. I kind of just pop in whenever I have time or think about it, and go into the altar and leave them some offerings, some incense. The gods aren't like demanding. I don't ever feel like, oh, it's Woden's day, like I better be there giving him his stuff on his day or anything. It's not like that. You don't have to like go to church every Sunday, but when I am at the Odin altar doing something for him, asking for something, giving an offering, I feel a sense that he likes more formality. So whereas I kind of just talk to Freya in my head or like internally, intuitively, Odin, I think, being a god over like spoken spells, Galder, and the runes, I feel like wants formality. He likes spoken words, and I find myself speaking in chants or like rhyming sing-songs to him a lot, which is interesting. Definitely, they all like cleanliness and upkeep as far as the altars are concerned. They definitely like don't be like me and like forget that you've left something in the offering cups for days at a time. They don't like that. As far as offerings to Odin and Loki are concerned, I like to give dark beer or hard liquor, coffee, mead. Mead and honey work really well for Freya and the Vanir as well, but specifically, yeah, like dark beer, dark drinks, hearty foods, like meats, breads, hearty dinners, home-cooked meals. If I have like leftovers or like we make a good steak or something, I'll like make up a little tiny plate for Odin and Loki and leave it at their altar, because I figure like even if Odin himself, I'm not clear exactly, and it seems to differ on the sources whether or not Odin needs to eat solid actual food or can't, like if he can't or can but just doesn't need to. Either way, I always offer him drink. My practice is to offer a drink to Odin and Loki both every time. If I'm kind of working specifically with one or the other, I may offer something additional specifically for them, but I always give them both a drink whenever I'm at that altar because it's a shared space, and I feel like it honors their blood bond. Yeah, even if I offer food and Odin doesn't want it, I figure he'll, worst case scenario, he'll give it to his wolves or ravens to enjoy. Other than that, one thing that really made me want to work with him was just offering knowledge. I'm a seeker of knowledge. I love just learning new things, and I just wanted to be able to exchange that with him. Taking time to learn something new, to read a book, to sit and share something you've learned with him, or share knowledge with others about things that you've learned. That and like sharing hospitality with others is just big with all of the gods, but I feel like Odin especially likes to test you on that front. So those are just some of my go-tos as far as offerings for them is concerned. And yeah, I just kind of wanted to come back and touch more specifically on my own personal experiences and UPG and what I do in terms of working with them, how I approach working with them, and what my experiences have been so far. So I hope that was helpful in terms of kind of explaining some more of the differences between and different aspects between the two groups. And that's kind of the cool thing about Norse paganism and just paganism in general, is that there's such a wide spectrum of different deities to work with, and within each deity themselves, they're not just gods of like one or two specific things. They're so multifaceted that there's something for everyone. There are those who I think are more naturally predisposed to relate to the Aesir, and there are people who are more disposed to traits of the Vanir, like myself, and then there are things that appeal to me about both. So I choose to kind of incorporate both, but with just me and my personality leaning more toward working with the Vanir, because I just find it to be more intuitive for me personally, for who I am as a person. But I hope you enjoyed this beautiful outside video on Freya Day. And I hope you have a happy Friday. And until next time, stay classy, pagans.